Ms. Sudha Vasudevan. She is a researcher, and of course, I know her for many years, and she's been working with Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Specialty Center at Madras, and she's also got 20 over years of experience as a dietitian, as a lecturer, as a research nutritionist in India and abroad. Her current areas of nutrition research include role of dietary glycemic carbohydrate in health and disease and studies on wellness foods in the Indian food market. She addressed many public awareness programs in diabetes through media and community lectures both in India and Singapore. Sudha is a life member of IDA, Nutrition Society, Indian Diabetes Educator, and ex-member of Singapore Nutrition and Dietetic Association. Today, she's going to talk about the development and origin of health and disease. I'm sorry.
On millet.
Yes. Her topic today is, anyway, I hand over the session to her for her topic for 7 minutes. Your time starts, Dr. Sudha.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, Chairperson. Good afternoon to all of you. And is my slides visible?
Yes, please.
My topic is the current big story about the millets. As it names millets, many people munch about millets and mill over, grind over. There's so much of extreme ends about spoken about millets. So I've chosen the topic pros and cons of the diet with perspective to the diabetes prevention, my talk. So with the rapid fire round, fasten your seat belt. I'll take you on a fast round to know the current evidence and the holistic way forward for millets. What are millets? A recap is a minor cereals like other cereal grains from the family Poaceae. There are two broad types of millets. Major millets are bajra and jova. Bajra is pearl millet and sorghum. And the minor millets are ragi or finger millet, foxtail, proso, little kodo, barnyard, and brown millet. Brown top millet is a new addition added to that. Like any other whole grain, millets also have, as a whole grain, have a peripheral seed coat or a bran layer rich in fiber, micronutrients, and phytonutrients, and the starchy endosperm inner side, and the germ on the other end, which is again rich in protein, fat, and minerals. Now, the pros and cons today that we are talking about this millets today. Millets certainly has a biggest plus point than any other cereal grain because they can be cultivated in a dryland crops. We are talking about planetary healthy diets, save Mother Earth, a greenhouse gas emission, and the climate friendly, eco-friendly because they don't guzzle so much of water to be cultivated like rice and wheat. In that sense, they are big plus. Hence, they strongly need to be promoted. So they are nutritiously give a tough fight to rice and wheat also, which you'll be seeing shortly. But the biggest constraint that we have with millet or disadvantages, like especially with the glycemic response, like it is lower in amylose compared to rice and wheat and lower in soluble fiber as cereal grain. Hence, there's likely glycemic response, which I'll be sharing with our evidence. And the previous speaker spoke about the phytate as anti-nutrient, again, preventing the good minerals like iron, zinc, and calcium not getting absorbed is a worrisome aspect, not only with millets, by and large with all the cereal grains, like the vegan speaker spoke about. Now, let's talk about the plus points of the millets, the nutrition composition. As I've shown you, the top two rows with the white rice milled and the whole wheat, and while the bottom ones are all with the smaller millet based on the size, they are called small millets or minor millets. The red font denotes that millets are higher in these particular nutrients compared to the wheat and rice, like protein, proso, foxtail, little kodo, they have higher content of protein, and millets have a marginally lower carbohydrate direct measurement called available carbohydrate, and the dietary fiber also, they have a little higher than the white rice and the wheat, and similarly the minerals and the fat content. Now, the problem today with this, even with the food composition tables or published literature, we have no clue at all. People only talk about millets. The awareness about whether these millets are polished or unpolished is not being told at all. And people are not even aware that millets can also be polished like rice. So that is where we went on to do a market research in Chennai Metro City with 100 stores across departments, where we found out 48 brands for these minor millets are available. And sorghum, pearl millet are the major millet. where they are available in an unpolished form. Whereas these minor millets, most of the brands are polished version. So you might wonder, how do we know that they are polished for a consumer perspective or for a nutritionist or a dietitian? So we draw the sample from the market and we simply examined it under the stereosome microscope. The bottom rows of images shows that they are stripped off from the peripheral bran seed coat layers and also the germ missing in all the minor millets in the bottom row of images. But how they should have been as unpolished, they should have looked like the top row of images, which shows the presence of germ and the seed coat, completely the smooth layer. They are not translucent. You can see the complete layer. But unfortunately, the packet, the food industry, the product packet has got tall claim about the pack saying that they are rich in fiber, minerals, unpolished, diabetic friendly. Diabetes is the first disease being victim to a food industry for any wellness food comes in. Chemical free, low glycemic index, poorly backed by science at all. So this made us that we must enter into a glycemic index testing for a glycemic response study. So our first study with the Indian Council of Medical Research, we did with ragi and nachni. The ragi, when it's consumed as a whole grain, made as a simple upma, showed such a high GI of 85, about 70 is a high GI. And even when it is made as a pressed as a whole grain flakes, again, it showed a high GI. But we know that millets definitely need to be brought down GI. There are plenty of functional ingredients and addition of protein, soluble fibers. With all that, we were able to bring, in the case of vermicelli, upma prepared, indigenously developed with these functional ingredients plus protein, we were able to reduce the GI from a high to medium, but some more trials, we could have even achieved much further lower GI. And most of our traditional preparations coming from millets, as you can see on the right, the blue fonts alone, I want you to focus. When the millets are ground into flour or finer particle size as roti, bajra roti or ragi mudde, ragi balls, or the jowar roti, all of them showed such a high GI, perhaps due to their lower amylose, lower soluble, or smaller size or unique starch nature. This definitely tells us that we need to really work on more R&D is needed, and the judicious combination with legumes are way forward for the products with the millets to be developed. And we have also tested the unpolished millets like foxtail and little millet, recently published last year in IGMR, where we have shown both foxtail and little millet had similar high glycemic index story. So these definitely tells you millets is the area for diabetes is still not ready to say, and people might think glycemic index is not a well-proven concept, but we tested it even with the 24-hour glycemic response study through continuous glucose monitor. The blue line stands for the ragi and the red stands for the white rice. We gave isocaloric, this is a whole ragi with higher fiber. Can you see the 24 hours, 5 days excursion of ragi, finger millet, is 73.6, and white rice, which is depleted of fiber, 78. Despite fiber-rich millet, it did not show any difference. This clearly brings out the merit that millets is an area that we need to not mull over, munch over, or mill over. We need to seriously focus and think about coming to the conclusion. They are eco-friendly. Definitely, we definitely need to promote millets, no doubt at all. But the gaps with regards to physiological functional properties need to be addressed is the highest need of the hour today. And nutrient database for millets are not comprehensive at all. For both polished and for the whole grain is much needed. And pulverization, grinding of millet should be avoided because it distorts the functionality of fiber. And finger millet with white rice, with the whole grain versus refined grain, shows similar glycemic responses. Unfortunately, the sad truth, definitely more R&D needed, not only for the product, even for the millet-based machinery and lower GA value added products are needed. Until then, vice way now to any millet to be recognized for consumption should go with a good amount of legumes to improve the glycemic response and to prevent diseases like diabetes and postprandial excursion. Thank you very much. But for my team, I would not have been here to explain this data.